Joining us now is former Congressman Mark Foley as a representative of Florida's 16th District. He served from 1995 until his resignation in 2006. When he is not busy as a real estate broker or as a consultant, he's talking about politics as a radio show host on West Palm Beach station WSVU AM and FM. Welcome to Newsmax TV, Mark.
Thanks. Good to be with you again, Kathleen.
Well, a big issue for voters, be they in Florida or elsewhere in the U.S., is the debt ceiling. Polls find that the nation is sharply divided over the outcome. If you were in Congress today, how would you have voted on the debt ceiling issue and why?
Well, I would have voted to raise it, but like they did, bring about some structural reforms. You can't keep spending money you don't have. The bottom line is government has consistently spent cash that they are obligating future generations to. Now, some people were saying, do not raise the debt limit, leave it alone and force them to make cuts. In this economy, that would not have worked, nor is it practical. It's like tearing up your credit card, then realizing, now what am I going to do? So you have to do this in a stair-stepped effort. And I think they're on the right path, but they have a lot of work to do.
Now, the disapproval rating for Congress after the debt talks is at a record 82%, according to a New York Times CBS poll. What do you think is behind this disapproval?
People are frightened. They're frightened for their own survival. They're worried about their jobs. They're worried about their mortgages, worried about their kids' future. So there's a malaise that Jimmy Carter used very successfully for his own re-election defeat. But it's permeated the people today because they look at their 401ks, look at their bank statements, look at job security, and they're frightened. And then they see our political leaders arguing as if they're school children in a fight. So I think it's permeated the psyche of people unlike I've ever seen before. They now hate both parties universally. They hate both members of Congress, be they men or women. They distrust the president for providing solutions. They're tired of him just constantly blaming someone else. I mean, if he had his way, he'd be blaming Reagan for the problems today. So they sense a lack of leadership, a lack of optimism, and clearly a lack of focus on the direction out of this problem. And so that's why high negative rolls have struck.
82%, Mark, is a pretty strong statement. How do you see this impacting or shaping 2012?
Significantly. I think more elections could be determined, much like 2010 was a watershed election of a sweep of Congress. Democrats were thrown out, Republicans were ushered in. Tea Party members were catapulted to national prominence very quickly. We may see a lot of incumbents defeated in 2012 based on the economy. I think people are so frustrated that they will vote everyone in or out that voted it in last time. There may be a lot of musical chairs in the nation's capital.
Now, Mark, you have your finger on the pulse of Florida politics, and the race to decide which Republican will have a shot at defeating U.S. Senator Bill Nelson, a Democrat, is heating up. Former Senator George Lemieux has thrown his hat in the ring, as has former House Majority Leader Adam Hasner and others. Alan West might be considering a run. Could a Republican defeat Nelson, who is a two-term incumbent, and who do you think has the best shot?
Bill Nelson will not be easy to beat. We're going to be in a very stressful time in 2012. They may not look to give any additional leverage to Republicans. The state may be in a period of instability. I think he can be beaten with the right candidate. I think Bill Nelson likes to pretend he's a moderate, but he votes along with the party. So he is very challengeable and he can be defeated. That being said, a candidate can beat Bill Nelson. George Lemieux served brilliantly in 16 months when he was there. Alan West would be an instant celebrity and star throughout the nation and raise $20 million if he needed to in a short order. So I think the jury's still out. I know Adam Hasner is working hard throughout the state and getting some support from Tea Party members and some national journalists. But Florida's a unique state. It's a very, very unique microcosm of the nation. We've got huge Latino population, we've got a lot of retirees, we've got military, we've got immigrants, we've got illegals, we've got so many different political power pulse points that it's so hard to predict right now. Now, give us next August, we'll have a clean idea who's going to be the nominee. We'll know the national trend line. But Florida has consistently had someone like a Connie Mack, Bob Graham, Democrat, Republican, Bill Nelson, Mel Martinez, Bill Nelson, George Lemieux. We've always split that top ticket. So that's why anyone suggests that Bill Nelson's going to be an easy mark that can be easily defeated is whistling past the graveyard.
Now, another Floridian representative, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, is chairwoman of the DNC. She recently said that President Obama is in remarkably good shape going into 2012. Do you agree with that statement? And what do you make of the manner in which she has attacked Republicans?
I've known Debbie a long time, served in the state house with her. She's a chihuahua in high heels. She is a nip and tuck, and I can see why Alan West got mad. I didn't like the way he responded to her, but I know exactly why he got mad at her, because she's the kind that kind of sticks the finger in your chest and keeps either belittling you or, you know, I said to Alan, I know when somebody's day job is to eliminate your job, which is what she's supposed to do. That can rile you, but I don't think he should have responded in the way he did. Now, that being said, if Debbie Wasserman Schultz thinks he's in good shape, he dipped below 40% approval rating, the worst presidential approval rating in recorded history. If she thinks that's a benchmark for launch, good luck to her. I think, you know, hers is a safe district. Karen Harrington, I know, is running against her. That's going to be a tough seat. We don't know the lines yet. But Debbie may find herself in a world of hurt. I mean, she's constantly sticking her foot in her mouth. She claims that, you know, Americans don't support the auto industry because they don't buy American cars, and she has 2 foreign cars. So, you know, things like that have a manner of catching up with you. But for her to significantly state that this will be an easy re-election for the president is nothing more than political soundbite for a Democratic leader of her party. But it is not based in reality. I'm not certain who will beat and who we will nominate, whether it's Huntsman, Governor Perry, any of those above-named people.
I was actually going to be my next question for you. Florida has 29 electoral votes up for grabs in 2012. Who do you think would have the best shot at defeating Obama?
Well, any business-inspired candidate has a chance to beat this president because he's presided over the worst economic mess and amplified the mess. He can go ahead and blame George Bush and the Republicans all he wants. We deserve some blame for the economic misfortune we find ourselves in. But there's a point where he has to stop and play leader of the free world. So I think you take any business candidate, a John Huntsman, a Mitt Romney, a Governor Perry who successfully run a state like Texas, those are formulas for success. My gut tells me Perry's going to be a pretty quick star. He's managed a state that's a border state and has had to deal with immigration, which will be the top tier issue facing America. He has more job starts in America than most any state. Austin, Texas is one of the most enviable places to live in the country. So most of the things he's done, he seems to have done well. I don't know him. I'm not endorsing him. I'm not going to hurt him like that. But I will suggest that someone like him, who has managed in an economic turmoil and has proven after 10 years of governor that he can lead us to the promised land and create jobs, that's a pretty good message. And like Romney, if Romney would honestly own his Massachusetts record and stand up and say, yeah, I voted for those things. I was governor of the most liberal state in America, and here's why I can be president based on that notion, I admire him a lot more. But sometimes he seems to distance himself from where he was in Massachusetts, and I frankly think he should own that. I think he was a great governor, great leader of the Olympics, a great business mind, and could instantly bring credibility to the White House effort to create jobs in America. So, good candidates in the field. Not sorry to see Pawlenty leave and some others. I think it clears some of the wood and allows people to say, hey, there's a good set of candidates we can choose from.
Florida Governor Rick Scott, how do you think he's doing?
Well, he's had a bumpy start, but he is a non-politician, and so he has approached the job like a CEO, and CEOs typically don't have to engage with the public perception. They get to make the rules, they hold the keys to the kingdom, and they get to set the rules and tell people to abide accordingly. So it's a very different structure for him. Intellectually, I think he's very curious. If he's allowed to use his entrepreneurial skills, I think Florida will be better off, but it's going to take time. He's changing style, he's going without ties, and all those things are trying to, as I call it, the political handlers are trying to make him more warm and fuzzy. I think what people want to do is see a leader determine how we're going to, like I said, should be Obama's challenge or Romney's challenge or someone else. Here is my plan for getting you back to work in a job you want that can afford to pay your family's bills and what have you. So I think Rick Scott is in what we'll call the incubator first. He's in the first 7, 8 months of office. But he's getting his stride, and I think that will pay off. But Florida has still unique opportunities. No one wants to live in New York and New Jersey much anymore because of the high tax burden and the weather. So we're going to be the beneficiaries of people consistently moving to Florida. How do we get not only those retirees here, but how about some of the brainiacs that are on Wall Street?
Mark, do you ever think about running for office again?
Once in a while.
Is it on the agenda?
I don't think it's on the agenda, but it's hard to get away from the mindset. You and I worked together when you were at Channel 5, and you know how much I enjoyed the job. I love helping people solve problems. That being said, I can still do that without having an elective title. I do miss it. I miss the debate. I miss the helping seniors and veterans. I loved, finding a problem and solving it for people. I had an incredible staff and made my job easy. People would come up to me at the mall and say, "Oh my God, thank you, Congressman, for helping solve my father's problem." And I go, "Well, I'm sure one of my staff did, but you're welcome." So I may. I've never shut the door on it. They wanted me to run for mayor of West Palm, and I thought about it. And but right now I'm happy. I've just come through cancer surgery.
I want to ask you about that because you were diagnosed within the last 2 months, and you underwent the surgery for prostate cancer as a treatment. How are you doing and how are you feeling, and how has this experience changed your life?
I feel great. Actually, I wish I would have paid attention to Newsmax more frequently on that bulletin that they have about prostate cancer in men, because I do think that people my age, 56, 57, put it out of their mind saying, "Oh, that's an old man's disease. That won't happen to me till I'm 70. Now, my father had prostate cancer, and I should have assumed that it will be hereditary. Now, that being said, I missed a couple annual physicals, and this one I found the elevated PSA. They did the required test, then we did the biopsy and found out I have very aggressive prostate cancer. It's 8 weeks later, you're in an emergency or operating table. I did the robotics in Orlando, which is a state-of-the-art procedure. I was up and walking the next day and out of the hospital, and 4 weeks later, now almost 5, in recovery. I feel great, but there are a lot of things that I think had I been more aggressive at the front end, and they could have planted a little seed in your prostate and it could have killed the cancer. Instead, I ended up in a radical prostatectomy, which is a removal. That's not fun. So health-wise, I'm great. Psychologically, I'm great. But I would urge men, even younger than 50, that I've heard now since I've been in this 38-year-old, 42-year-old, 46-year-olds that have had prostate cancer. So get the PSA screening every year. Don't miss a year. Consult a good urologist that you trust, that you know, and will do and perform the test properly. And if there's an elevation, immediately deal with it. Because waiting, as I did, not knowing, but I waited, unfortunately, probably required me to have this more invasive surgery, and it could have been minimized had I been on top of it. So to those Newsmax readers, when they see that little headline come in, prostate cancer, how you can be helped, click on that link. If you're a man, just like women with breast cancer, being aggressive and early detection can make a tremendous difference to your life and your health.
Mark, I wish you all the best.
Thanks.
For a fantastic recovery.
Thanks.
And I thank you for being here and for sharing with us all of your insight.
I'm glad to be back with you on air. This is great fun.
It was indeed. And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.